All right, come on in. Welcome everyone to tonight's Neumi Members Night. Welcome. Hey, wherever you're tuning in from, comment in the chat section where you tune in from, whether you're watching live from the Zoom room or if you're watching on YouTube or Neumi's Facebook. Uh, Everything Neumi Worldwide. Just let me know where you're dialing in from. And we're going to get started in just about a minute or so, but you have about 30 seconds, 30 seconds to make sure that your team members, your friends, your family, people who are partnering with you and Numi are dialed in and tuned in. So that clock starts now. All right. Once again, welcome everyone to May 14th, Numi Members Night. We got a special guest tonight, Numi Crown. Karen Justice is got a wonderful presentation. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing. I got my pen and my notepad here ready to take some copious amounts of notes. So I want to encourage you to do the same because this is going to be really good. So I have a little bit more to set up, but I do want to right now introduce you to Numi Crown, Karen Justice. Karen, let me get your slides set up.
Okay, hi everyone. It's great to be here tonight. I can see some of the faces of my friends, people that I've gotten to know over this past couple of years and knew me. Thank you, Jackie. I know Jackie's calling in all the way from New Zealand. So, oh, I see Camille. Hi, Camille. So it's nice to see you guys. Anyway, I hope that you will enjoy tonight's presentation. It's one that I've put a lot of heart into, and a lot of you know I'm a cartoonist, so as well as a networker. So I'm going to have some fun with this. So, okay, so I believe that the attractor factor in network marketing or any business is enthusiasm. I think it's like that magic spark that connects between people. It can't be seen any more than electricity can, but it can be felt. And it's very important. I know our products give us, I should say, a tremendous advantage in the marketplace. And when you're talking to people about them, um, what people remember is not so much what you have to say, but how you make them feel. And as I'm going to be telling you today in the presentation, most people aren't sales types. So just being genuine, creating an authentic presentation, I believe is the most important thing to creating the relationships you need to build a strong team in network marketing. Um, I became a crown, as you probably know, in 5.5 months, but this message isn't about speed. Um, it's about learning how to create enthusiasm in your group, how to get that magical spark going. But before I started, it took me a while to get going because I had been really quite burnt out. I jokingly say I had network marketing PTSD. And so when I was approached, I wasn't looking for a company. Next slide. Um, I had met the land sharks, the unethical distributors, and there were just too many people that were in the business that I thought, I just didn't admire their ethical standards. So when I heard about this product, I was so intrigued. I couldn't help it. But I did a week of due diligence, asking the hardest possible questions that I could to make sure that the people that were running the company were who I thought they were. And what I found was Aaron Rennert, he's our CEO and president. He understands this industry better than anyone I've ever come across. He knows how to take a company international. His history in finance is impeccable, so he really knows how to keep us safe. And, I jokingly say Steve Scott is a heart with legs, and he really is, but he's a brilliant man. He's got the Midas touch. He's made billions in infomercials working with breakthroughs. And, as we know, he believes that this is his biggest breakthrough. But the thing I also love about him is the fact he's written all those books based on his values and Christian values. And he is somebody who really walks his talk, and I admire him greatly. So this is a very different company. And see the presentation that little Sharky's making? That isn't the type of presentation to make. Anyway, as I said, I'm a cartoonist and I like to underline a little humor in the drama. Next slide, please. So what we're going to talk about today is how to share the Neumi products in your business opportunity in a way that keeps you happy, and how to learn how to do it authentically. Next. I have won awards for building in the networking industry. I've written for the industry for quite a few years. I'm the author on books on how to survive and thrive in the sometimes shark-infested world of network marketing, but I know most people aren't sales types. So I always focus on being yourself, natural conversations, being authentic. And I feel, a smile is the shortest distance between two hearts. So let's have some fun. But I just have to say right now, my little kitty is off to the side yelling because I've got my office door closed and he wants to get out. So I just have to slide over. I'm sorry, that was a little unprofessional. I didn't know he was hiding in there. But anyway, so can we go to the next slide, Keith? So this is how I looked kind of before Neumi. I was financially stressed. And I think that's my little dog Ernie there. I think a lot of people are feeling that way today. Um, so many people are trapped in fear. And if you believe that we create our reality, if you're always talking or thinking about your fears, you tend to create more. And so sometimes people are frantic with fear these days. And if you're rowing in the wrong direction, it doesn't help, if you're if you can be rowing as hard as you can, but it doesn't help if your boat is pointed in the wrong directions. So energy goes, as they say, where attention flows. And so putting your attention and getting involved with a company like Neumi, just realizing that you can be successful, and just making those connections that we all make, that make us feel like we're a part of a big family, makes a huge business. And when people come into our company, they see how different it is. We have wonderful training systems. Next slide. We have the STAR training system, and a lot of different trainings that you can get involved in. We've got wonderful calls, all of that. But I always say the first thing is to make your prospect list. And you may laugh when you see this, but the thing is that I do it. And I'm constantly updating my prospect list. And I know a lot of strong builders, they're constantly doing the same thing. It's important to have that prospect list, because what happens is if you don't have it and you call your first people and they say no, then all of a sudden it's scarcity. You feel like there's nobody out there. But if you're constantly making that list and updating it and contacting people, it makes a world of difference, because you always feel like there's abundance. And next, Keith. Again, being authentic. You don't want people to feel manipulated. So many network marketing books teach you to have these conversations that really aren't authentic, and people can see them coming a mile away. You want to keep your presentations conversational and sincere. And what happens is people connect on a deeper level. Sales alert doesn't kind of flash across their radar screen. This business isn't about just collecting contacts. It's about creating long-term relationships, developing those relationships. And one of the things I'm good at is to getting the business expanding in all different all different directions. And that comes from building authentic relationships with the people that you bring in. And also, the following up and the nurturing and all of that, really creating that community. Okay, next. A lot of people don't understand that activity equals income. you know. A lot of people also do busy work. They get involved in getting their desk just right, or their day planner just right, or all of these different things, instead of actually jumping in and getting started. There's a saying, the world needs dreamers, but the world needs dreamers who do. And so your activities always have to be results motivated, not just busy work. So just check in on yourself every once in a while, and make sure that's true. People often will tell me, it's not working for me, when in the truth, when I pull the string, is that they're honestly not working, at least not hard enough to really let the law of averages kick in. So, a key is act like you're in business. You might even put it on your computer, on a card, on the top of your computer. I'm in business, and it's a reminder. A lot of times you can say to yourself, how much would I pay myself for the amount of work I did today if I was my employee? And sometimes it wouldn't be all that much. So next slide, please. So less is more. A lot of times people make all of these wild technical presentations. They know every fact and they make sure you're going to hear it. But less is more. Just focusing on the benefits, the types of things you've gotten for yourself. Those are the things people respond to. If you saw somebody at the gym that was in that position and said that, you'd probably be curious about what she had to tell you. So next. Okay. A key factor is to learn to listen. You've heard me say a lot of people in network marketing talk enough to get their tongues suntanned. But if you really want to be successful, you have to learn to listen. And learning to listen, and not just listening and waiting so you can say something really quickly, listening with an agenda, listening empathically, you know what I mean, like really listening to the person and then presenting to that person's needs. It makes a huge difference. Next, please. So once in a while, you have to check in on yourself and see what excuse your mind's giving you for not kind of jumping back in the water. There's all kinds of things that come up. We tend to give ourselves these excuses. I teach people to put in spite of. Check what excuse you're giving yourself and just put in spite of in front of it. You could put in spite of website glitches, I'm building a business. You know what I mean? Nothing's getting me down. In spite of long hours at work, I'm doing this. In spite of the fact my husband isn't one bit supportive, I'm doing it. In spite of the fact I don't know many people, I'm doing it. In spite of the fact the kids are going to be home for summer, I'm doing it. In spite of the fact I have no time, I'm doing it. In spite of the fact no upline is helping me, I'm doing it. Nobody has it smooth. And I've met people that have had all of those circumstances I just named in their lives and made it to the top of compensation plans. It just takes that determination. And, we've been through our formulation phase. You've heard me talk about the S curve. The S curve has 4 parts. The first part is formulation. Then there's concentration, momentum, and stability. In the formulation phase, which we've just gone through, is a tough time. And it's a tough time in any new company. You can look this up on the internet. If you look up the S curve, you'll see. They say that formulation stages are very fragile. There's all kinds of challenges and mistakes are made. You've got your MLM junkies jumping on board. So they jump on, they jump off during, the shakeup in the formulation stage. And so there's lots of growing pains with an initial launch as a company adjusts its presentation of the product to the marketplace. And that's just always the case. It's interesting that with, I just have to laugh about MLM junkies. You've seen my shark, but up in the front. But the thing is that what's so funny is that, and I've said this to a number of people, every new company looks great. There's no network marketing company that enters the marketplace that says, oh, I'm going to enter the marketplace and not look great. They all look great. And some people become like addicts. They can't let one go by. But Neumi is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's the most incredible company I've ever found with the most incredible product, and it's the truth. And wonderful, wonderful people that are like family running it. So we've made it through our formulation phase, thank goodness. And now we're in this concentration phase. Now, a lot of savvy networkers won't join a company in that first formulation phase because they know there's going to be a lot of shaking, and they know it can be like playing Russian roulette with your life because over 90% of network marketing companies fail. That statistic was given to me by Rod Cook, the MLM watchdog. He was a good friend of mine. So most companies fail. But when a company becomes like ours, that it gets through that phase and then moves into the concentration phase, that's the company that most savvy networkers look for because they've skipped the hardest part and now they're in for the great part. Why is it such a great part? Because once you reach that concentration phase where everything is more stable, then what happens is you attract the bigger builders. People build the solid foundations, and you start to amass a lot of really strong leadership. Your leadership has been tested during the wars, what I mean, of all the stuff that's happened. And now you've got a really solid foundation. And during this concentration phase, it generally lasts for a couple of years. The reason that network marketers really look for it is the very next phase is momentum. And the reason momentum is so incredible is when a company hits momentum, it's like you can not do anything wrong. It's like having a tiger by the tail. People can, 10, 20 times their volumes overnight. And that's when the huge checks, the legendary checks you hear about in network marketing are generally made, is when a company moves from this concentration phase into the momentum phase. If a company moves into momentum too soon, they generally shake apart, okay? And that's when it happens in that formulation stage. But when a company goes through these formulas, from concentration moves into momentum, after they've been around 4 or 5 years, they're almost invincible from everything that I've seen. And so we'll be going into the momentum phase sometime, soon. And what we're seeing right now, I know Keith is seeing it too, is we're attracting some incredible leaders are coming on board right now. It's a really heady time to be part of the company. So after momentum, the company a company goes into momentum for a few years where they've got this explosive growth. After that, you get a stability, and that's when the company has gentle growth. It's like from going from a little fast car to a great big huge bus. You know what I mean? And the bus moves slower than the little fast car. And so that's why when you join an older company, sometimes it's very difficult to get any momentum in your own group because it's hard to outperform the momentum of the company. So that's just a little bit more than I wanted to tell you about that tonight, but I thought I'd get into that just so that you understand. I just am such a fan of the S curve, and I'm so proud that we've made it through that formulation stage and are now in the best stage we could be in. So next. So, oh, you already did. Okay, so you need a realistic dream that makes you take action. And as I said, identify what's holding you back. But sometimes, people create esoteric dreams for themselves, like dreams that, like I want to save India or something, like just some big, huge, profound thing that they think they're going to do. And it doesn't really motivate them. But like, for instance, I had a girlfriend at the top of a compensation plan. Um, and her dream was she hated her job. She wanted to spend all day in her pajamas if she wanted and not even go out of the house. Now, to most people, that might not be such a wonderful dream, but it was for her. And when she realized that that was her dream, rather than, when she had been writing in her day planner about trying to help all these people, when she realized what her dream really was, it really motivated her. And when I met her, she was at the top of the compensation plan, making a great deal of money. So a goal is a dream with a deadline. People need goals to succeed because they kind of need to know where they're going and markers on the field, that type of thing. You break your goal into the smaller action steps, but it's basically how many eyes and ears have you had on a presentation every week, That's the key, create a target for yourself. I want to get 5 eyes and ears on a presentation this week. I want to get 10. And then the next week you're following up and you're getting, 5 more out or 3 more out or whatever your goal is, And at the end of the month, you could have, 40 presentations out there that you're following up with, or 20, just depending on what your goal is. But the law of averages will kick in. And we've got great tools. If you get out of the way, we've got great tools and the law of averages will kick in. So next. So massive action. I believe in massive action. Eric Worre has written in one of his books that everybody he interviewed who was a top networker took massive action for about 3 months. And the people that were enrolled during that period of time took the people all the way to the top of the compensation plan. I wrote an article about this probably 25 years ago, it was called Creating a Storm. That's why this picture is like this. It's coming in and creating that storm of speed, and that helps create enthusiasm in your group because success loves speed. It just is the truth, There's all these things happening and people are ranking and, all of that stuff. So taking massive action and getting some of your people to do the same thing is key. Next. It's not key. It's a key. You don't have to do it. Okay. You can build slowly and, you'll do fine. It's just there's always attrition in network marketing, so you want to outpace your attrition. But if you can't take the massive action for different reasons in your life, just keep moving forward. If you can't be stopped, you won't be. But if you can't take massive action, it's always better, and do it in bouts of, spurts of action. So, okay, I like this picture. It reminds me of creating that network of support that I talk about around people. I really believe in following up with the people you brought on board. I believe follow-up equals retention. We rise by lifting others in this company. This compensation plan is wonderful for that. But what is key in a great business is those personal contacts. You've heard the word family used so much in Neumi, and how you create that is you build those connections, and you purposely go out and you build them. And there's the 3 C's. It's you contact, and that's, phoning people, texting, whatever you're going to do. Contact, you connect. You connect them to the tools, you connect them to each other, you connect them to these calls. You make every connection you can. You connect them through uplines, through 3 ways. All of those, just imagine that you're weaving something beautiful, okay? You're contacting, you're connecting them, and soon you have community. So what I refer to as social networking is kind of a different business. There's a lower price of entry. You get all kinds of support, but you have to drive your own efforts. But you also do have that support. One of the things I love about it is the fact that you leverage your time with that of your team members. It could cost you, I don't know, 50 to 100,000 to start a business, and in this marketplace, it'd be a very scary thing to be doing. But you can earn a lot more money in network marketing. They say that most of the millionaires coming out today are coming from the network marketing arena, and I know that this business is the great equalizer. You can, in my opinion, earn more than a doctor. You can see the guy who mows the lawn coming in, and just because he's got tenacity, end up in a really wonderful position. Next. So we talked a bit about this. Targets are the markers on the field. You get what you focus on. If you aim at nothing, you'll get it every time. So if you want to live a happy life tied into a goal, you get a lot of happiness from the sense of overcoming obstacles. That's why it's fun to goal set as teams and get over the goals as teams, and helping your team accomplish goals. And you want to acknowledge small successes, because remember, you're building belief. Very few people come into the marketplace thinking they can do it. I wrote an article years ago called Sell, 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 Doesn't Anybody Share Anymore? And it was really well liked. Actually, no, this one was called Forget About Heavy Hitters, Go for the Real Marketers. And it was about the fact that most people come into the marketplace, they don't think that they could be successful at this. They really don't. They've got a toe in the water. And so when you call and you underline the fact they've had a success with the product, you underline the fact that they'd be helping other people, you underline the fact that you'd help them make those first calls, those tentative steps help people have the belief to overcome their fear of being seen as a salesperson. And they take those first steps, and it makes all the difference in the world. Everybody who's a so-called legend in the industry was just at one time somebody, you know what I mean? And you find that the so-called legends in the industry and network marketing come from all walks of life. It's you know, the big person tomorrow could be your babysitter today. You know, it just takes that decision to change their life. So let's go to the next one. So another key is, again, when we talked a little while ago, the reason I thought of this other article I wrote, the one sell, 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 doesn't anyone share anymore. It's about caring, and it's about having fun when you're making a presentation. When you're making a presentation, please, the least technical details, the less technical details you can put out there, the better your presentation is going to be, unless you're speaking to somebody who really needs that. You have to kind of think in your mind as you're making some of these presentations, you know, as you're going on and on about some technical detail, you know, who cares? They really don't care at this point. What they're only thing they're thinking is, am I interested in this or not? Is this going to make my face look better? Am I going to feel any better? I don't care, you know, about all that other stuff you're saying. So you want to focus really on, unless you're making a presentation to somebody who's very, very, like, I present to a lot of doctors, believe me, and I keep it simple. I tell them I'm looking younger, you know, that I'm feeling so much better. You know, I let them see some of the before and afters. They'll speak for themselves. But then I will tell them that, hey, we have brand new technology. It's, you know, this incredible hydrostat technology. Let me send you a video. I don't become the scientist myself, and I focus on benefits that they can see themselves wanting and benefits they can see their patients wanting, or they can see a friend wanting. So that's basically how I make a presentation. If I'm calling somebody that I haven't talked to in a while, you've heard me say this before, but I'll say, hi, it's Karen. I'm calling because I'm really excited about something, but we haven't talked for about 3 years. So first, can we just catch up with you? And that way I get my agenda out front. So it's not one of those strange conversations where somebody's called you, they haven't talked to you in years, and you know they're calling you because they want to try to talk to you about their business opportunity. But, you know, 10 minutes in before they mention it, and it's so uncomfortable. So anyway, just be direct. Again, I said authentic. Okay, so next. Okay, so the tools, have fun with the tools, take selfies, post, you know, get all the links out there, and tap into the system. Next. I love this picture. Anyway, we have the best compensation plan that I've ever seen. We have the highest paying compensation plan that's legal that I've ever seen. We rise by lifting others with this compensation plan. It's incredible. So I'm extremely proud of it. And all of our tools, we've got wonderful tools for presentation. So all it takes is to just start to get them out into the community once you've got people signed up or in follow-up presentations. I don't send a bunch of things out in a first presentation. I might just send a 2.5-minute video and get them asking for more. Sometimes I'll send 3 things, the 2.5-minute video, Steve's 16-minute presentation, and sometimes the compensation plan. But that's rare. It just, if I know it's a professional builder, I'll do something like that. Okay, next. Okay, no, so I said no. That was the first thing I said. I was determined that I wasn't interested. I came to the 3-way kicking and screaming. Not really. I didn't want to go. And I really wasn't, you know, didn't think I was interested. But I finally watched the 2.5-minute video, and I couldn't help but be interested. And so then when Larry asked me if I'd listen on a 3-way, I said, okay, you know. But I was sure in my heart that I wouldn't get involved with something, but I couldn't help be intrigued. And then I heard more I watched Steve Scott talk, and I just fell in love, and I realized that this is a very different company. And no is really interesting. Sometimes no, you just got to ask the next question. Sometimes with a no, I will say, okay, I understand and I respect that, but I just love the company and the product so much. I'm just curious as to why you made that decision. And if you just say curious as to why, a lot of times you will find that they've got a misunderstanding. There's a question, that they've got some wrong consideration, and it's something that you can handle very, very easily. But no is not no forever. I think every one of my frontline people initially said no, you know? So if you're getting some no's, you're not the only one that gets no's, But I kind of cajole, I don't know what that word is, but you know what I mean? There's a word like that. Gently try to get them to at least watch the 2.5-minute video. And if they do, they're usually wanting to see the next part. Okay, next. So focus on the fun stuff. Again, I talked about this a little earlier on. That, really contact and connect, and then you've got your community. It's so important. We've got great tools, again, I said, and happy attracts, okay? So next. Did you change it? Okay. Okay, so there's a saying, the fortune is in the follow-up, and it is. Follow up with your prospects. A lot of times people are scared to follow up with their people that they've signed up. They're scared maybe the person doesn't like it, or I haven't heard from them, or anything like that. But it's really important to follow up. Sometimes when I've called into downlines and found people that haven't been followed up with, the reason they dropped off is they didn't know how to reorder, So it's quite frequent, unfortunately. So the fortune is in the follow-up. There's a saying that's a well-known saying in networking. So a key thing that you want to make sure you get out there when you're following up is that this product is not a stimulant. Don't expect a stimulant effect. It's not a drug. We're a nutraceutical, not a pharmaceutical. And I'll often send the video of Dr. Crozier, and I've been working on some follow-up videos with doctors that you'll be getting soon. Okay, next. So we rise by lifting others. As we help others, we create that network of support. This is a company, or in a profession, I guess, network marketing. All of my best friends now, I've met from network marketing, except for one that I met when I was 15, but all of my other friends have come from network marketing. And you can make some of the deepest, most wonderful connections with this business. Next. Sometimes the thing that's the most important thing is to just take a little break, relax. Remember what I said, that happiness attracts. Sometimes you get stressful days. It's good to go for a walk on the beach, or just a walk if you don't live near water. But it's really important to create the life you want to wake up to. So build in happiness, okay? Taking some time for yourself is important. Next. So the law of averages, we talked about that. It's all good. The law of averages works. It really does. Next. Okay, so one of the reasons that I have made it to the top of the compensation plan is that I have belief in myself. I left home at a very young age and I had to support myself. And so I always kind of did the work, there was nobody that I could fall back on or ask for help. And so I always did the work and I trusted in myself. When I first got into network marketing, I didn't trust that anybody else would do anything ever, but I figured I could, um, you know, get enough of the product out to save my house. And that's why I first got involved in networking. And then I absolutely fell in love with it. So I found that the things that I created around networking were creating that network of support so people didn't feel alone and, rising by lifting others, that whole thing, and having your group go out in all directions because you've created a strong sense of support, rather than just the hero guy who does it all by himself and then there's no duplication underneath. So when I rose up, I rose by lifting others quickly, and they were ranking, and that's kind of what did it. So just kind of start thinking of yourself as your own hero. Um, challenge yourself, as I said, to do something above average for a short period of time and be a person that you can believe in. Um, it doesn't come overnight. Sometimes we have to just take the time to step back and just sort of say what's holding me back. But believe me, please believe me, you are enough. Every single one of you on this call are enough. I have, been to, after I got into network marketing, because I applied business principles, some people wanted me to talk at different events and different things. And going around the country, I saw all kinds of people make it to the top. Not just influential people you wouldn't ever listen to, you know what I mean? But they had tenacity. Some people did it because they were people you'd listen to, but other people you'd never listen to, but they knew how to take a tool and put it in front of somebody, and the law of averages took them to the top of the compensation plan. I remember, I've told this story before, but I like it because I was watching this little old lady get up on stage, and beside her was a smiling older man. And she said that when she first joined in network marketing and she was ranking the highest level in her company, her husband had told her she was in a pyramid scam and he didn't want her doing it. So she hid her kit in her underwear drawer. She figured he'd have no reason going in there. And she just did it. She did it behind his back. And now here he was, proud as punch, standing beside her, but like she didn't have exceptional skills. She wasn't, you know, an influencer, you know what I mean? She was just this little lady and determined to change her life, to have enough money to have some choices. So that was her driving force. So any of you can do it. It's just the key thing is in your heart. That belief that I've told you to underline in other people, underline it in yourself. Okay? Because you can. Anybody I've seen, everyday people come in, never thinking they could sell anybody anything, but just get excited, and that enthusiasm attracts, and all of a sudden, there they are, They've got somebody great that they signed from down the street, and something's happening. You give a great thing like Irene had the Greek group, and some of you have had some wonderful things like that, but they happen. But it's tenacity if you get enough links out there. As I said, I used to stutter. I was very shy. It was painful for me to try to be on stage, because if you've ever stuttered when you were young in school, standing on stage and having people watch you talk, I mean, I would almost faint when I'd go on stage. But even when I first came to Neumi, I really didn't want to do any calls, but I wanted to try to support the team, so I started it, and I got, more and more comfortable. So anyway, again, the next one. So this is one of your downline. I love that picture. Uh, it's you want to create that, as I said, that network of support around people. And the easiest way to do it, I guess, is probably to make those connections that I'm talking about. But sometimes, people come to you and they're just down. I often get people to watch a video again or something like that. You know what I mean? Like go into your app and watch some videos, get on a live call. They can't stay down for long because there's so many things happening around this company. We are about to take a really magical ride, everybody. And I see faces on this call tonight, people that I really love. And so I want to see you there all with me. So anyway, next slide. Let's walk the beaches of the world together. Yay. All right. So anyway, again, it's not speed, it's tenacity. Okay. Love you guys. Here's Keith. He looks like he's trying to talk, but he's muted. There he is.
I'm just trying to negotiate all the buttons.
I know that's a lot. You're a better man than I, Ganga Din.
What a great presentation, Karen. And I resonated with a whole lot. Took 3 pages of notes, and the last thing I got here, I think, is really key. And it's it's the final step to the whole thing, and that's action. You just got to get to work, right? And that's that dream that's going to drive it. So really, really great presentation. Certainly appreciate it. I hope everybody took copious amounts of notes. If you did, share it with your team members. Get this information out to them and let them know they missed a really cool presentation. But the good news is we live streaming on YouTube channel, Neumi Everything Neumi Worldwide YouTube and Facebook channel, and Neumi's main YouTube channel. So it's there in a recorded fashion. You could send them, you can go watch it again. You can go watch it yourself and replay it back and forth a few times if you missed something. Really cool presentation. Thanks again, Karen. And thanks again, everyone. Tomorrow night, Stephen Scott will be live, Neumi.tv, as he presents. In fact, I think tomorrow night is Meet the Founder. So he's going to talk a little bit about the technology, a little bit about himself and his background, but it's going to be a really, really cool call. That's at 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, 6 o'clock. I'm sorry, that's 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 on the West Coast, 7 here in Central, 8 on the East Coast. Y'all have a great evening. Good morning. Good afternoon.